Hey, what's up, everyone? How you doing? It's me, Mr. 4K Upscaler. I want to talk about Firewall Zero Hour. The reason this is a big deal to PlayStation VR, in my opinion, is because this is the first time that we actually get to see a first-person shooter multiplayer PlayStation VR game on a console. Now, this is not the first time that the first-person shooters have been implemented into a PC in the VR. HTC Vive has done this really well with the Onward game, which is the mainly popular online shooter game. There's another ones out there as well. Oculus Rift also has its version as well. So this is not the first time that the PC has done this. PC's been doing this now. It's way ahead of obviously PlayStation VR. But there's something so unique about using the aim controller. You know, I do have an aim controller, and I think using the aim controller is much better experience, because if you guys watch my live streams that I did with the Farpoint, it just feels more fluid. When you're holding the aim controller, it has more fluidity to it. Now, from what I have gathered, from what I have researched, this game looks promising, and I'll explain why that is. The reason why this game to me looks promising is because the developers behind this game have been working on the VR for quite a long time, and they have a lot of experience with the VR, and they also spend a lot of time getting the aim controller accustomed to this game. So they used pretty much every possible resource they can use out of this aim controller to really make it work seamless. I think the best word I can use, from what I have heard, that it's more fluid and more responsive. And when I hear words fluid, responsive, to me the most important thing on a first-person shooter VR game, it's for the controller, for the aim controller to be responsive, the tracking to be better and more responsive. Now, this is what they're saying. This is what people who actually went to the E3 booth and they tried this game, this is what they're saying. Now, I don't know how much I can trust them, or should I even trust them. I do have my doubts. I don't trust them 100%, but everyone seems to implement that this aim controller, it slightly works better than what we have experienced with Farpoint. So it's slightly better than Farpoint from what I have heard, and that sounds promising, you know. But until I can actually have this game in my possession and then try it with my aim controller, you know, it's going to be hard for me to it's going to be hard for me to tell you exactly how it feels. You know, when it comes to the VR, when it comes to these types of games, you really have to have the controller, you really have to put the VR headset on, and then you can actually give your impressions on how it feels. You know, so far it looks promising, you know. And the most exciting thing about the Firewall Zero is the fact that it supports a multiplayer. And to me, that's a pretty big deal, that it supports a multiplayer. There's kind of a multiplayer in a Farpoint, but it's a co-op. But this is more where you can use that microphone that's built inside the PlayStation VR, and you can communicate with your teammates, you know. All right, you cover me here, you go there. One thing I want to point out, and I think this is the mistake a lot of people are making. They're comparing this game to they're referencing reference. They're using this game as a reference to the Valve. What's the name of that Valve game? Counter-Strike. They're referencing this game to a Counter-Strike. And I think it's a mistake to compare and reference this game to a Counter-Strike, because Counter-Strike, it's a fast-paced PC multiplayer shooter, and it's always going to be that. It's going to be hard for the VR to ever catch up to something like that kind of speed and fluidity at this time. So I wouldn't compare it to a Counter-Strike. And if you are buying this game expecting something like a Counter-Strike, fast-paced fluidity, stuff like that, then you're going to be mistaken. Terribly, you're going to be mistaken. So don't compare this game to a Counter-Strike. It's not a Counter-Strike. The best I can compare this game that was developed by the First Contact Entertainment, I would compare it to Rainbow Six and SOCOM. If you played Rainbow Six and SOCOM Navy SEAL, whether it's SOCOM 2, SOCOM 3, SOCOM 4, you will know exactly what to expect. And I think that's a pretty cool thing that we have a multiplayer VR game. This is the only multiplayer first-person shooter VR game that has that tactical squad-based Rainbow Six and SOCOM Navy SEAL type of a feel to it, with VR and with the aim controller, and of course with your microphone built inside the VR headset, so you can communicate with your teammates. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. But I do have my doubts. I am worried about the tracking. Let's talk about some realistic negatives here that we have to talk. It's like the elephant in the room. That's why I'm doing this video, because we gotta have an honest talk. One of my biggest fears, one of my biggest worries, it's the tracking. As you all know, currently right now, PlayStation VR, it still uses the eye camera, PlayStation camera, and PlayStation camera. It's not the greatest. It's not the best tracking, but it is what it is at the moment till we get PlayStation VR 2 next year. PlayStation VR 2 is going to be a game changer. It's going to be a whole new ball game, and I'm pretty sure this game will run superb on the PlayStation VR 2. It'll be like a night and day experience. But at the moment, I do have my skepticism about the tracking. I think that's going to be one problem, one issue, is the movement. It's not going to be as fluid unless these developers, as they're claiming, and I want to give them a benefit of a doubt, as they're claiming, they're saying that they are able to give us a much better response, much better motion, movement, much better fluidity. But look, every developer will say, my horse is better than your horse. So, they have to advertise their product. I get that, but until I actually try it, I don't buy into that, yet. But looking at some reviews and some impressions, when I say reviews, I mean people who actually played this game, and there was a lot of people who played this game, both in E3 booth and other booths out there as well. They got invited and they tried this game, and they all say that it's slightly better than the Farpoint, like in terms of the movement, and that sounds promising. That is promising. But there's going to be another issue that we're going to have to look into here. The server. Hopefully they'll have a good dedicated server to run this online. Is there going to be issue with the multiplayer? I think there's going to be some issues with the multiplayer, obviously, as it always does. It's not going to be a perfect game. It is going to have some issues in the beginning when it gets released. The server's going to be up and down, stuff like that. But I think we should give this game a chance. Give it about a month. Throughout September, maybe October, we'll see more stuff come into this game. Steady servers, better improved microphone control. So it is promising, and it's the reason this is exciting, because this is the very first multiplayer, is the only multiplayer first-person shooter VR, PlayStation VR game that's available. And I think this is a pretty big deal, because if this game is successful, it's going to sell even more VR headsets, and this is another reason why, you know, you want to purchase PlayStation, because of exclusivities. You know, and this is something that Microsoft really doesn't have, and I talked about this. You know, here we are, this game, it's exclusive to the PlayStation VR. You can only play it on PlayStation. You can't play it anywhere else. Just like Spider-Man, it's only exclusive to PlayStation. So I think that's the one unique core of Sony and PlayStation that always has been there, and Microsoft just hasn't been to that level yet. You know, I mean, I love Forza Horizon as any other guy out there, but you know, if that's all you're gonna be showing to me, it's a bunch of Forzas every year, or a bunch of Gears, or a bunch of Halos every year, then, you know. And I mean, you gotta bring something fresh, man. You know. And then this whole rumor that I remember how I always said that Microsoft wants to go cloud streaming, and that there's some good rumors that's what the Scarlet console is gonna be. It's a cloud streaming. Didn't I tell you this? Didn't I warn you about this? I mean, you guys can go back and check my videos, and I specifically talked about that. So anyway, what else I want to say regarding the aim controller? I do have the aim controller, and if you guys want to see it, maybe I can bring it over here just to show it to you how it looks. Just give me 1 second. I'll be right back. I'm kind of doing this just in real time. I don't want to put any editing. It's just real-time recording. You see what you see exactly. So I'm going to go bring that aim controller really quick. Alright, so this is the aim controller right here. I don't know if you guys can see it a little bit better here. There it is. It really feels great. You know, a lot of people have been asking me about this controller, and it definitely, you know, it has a nice motion movement to it. And, you know, yes, I know that there's HTC Vive has a better tracking. I have HTC Vive. As you guys all know, I have all of the VR headsets. But there's something about you having something like this that feels like a real rifle. You know, instead of you using two separate motion controllers and then doing this, you know, it's kind of off balance. This, it feels as if you're like really holding that controller, you're holding that rifle. So it really has that feel to it, that it feels like a real rifle, you know. And this is why I am kind of excited about this game that's coming on August 28th by the First Entertainment company here. I think that's what's called, First Entertainment something. And I did some research on these developers, and they did work on the VR in the past. They have a lot of background. Yeah, First Contact Entertainment. And they did work on a lot of VR apps, a lot of VR programming, so they are very familiar with the virtual reality. They've been working nothing but virtual reality, so they have nothing but hands-on experience with virtual reality. And I think this is why Sony hired them, because they have such an enormous experience with the VR. And the developer of this game said the reason he wanted to do this game for the Sony was because he felt that there's so much they can do with the same controller, and they wanted to fix some issues that have been addressed on the VR, on the first-person shooter VR. And he said he hopes that he had fixed those issues that have been presented on the VR. He said one of the major issue was the tracking and the control movements. And I think that's true. You know, one of the most important things when it comes to the first-person shooter VR is the tracking and the VR movement. You know, it has to be fluid. It has to be synced in. It has to be less lag, almost zero input lag if possible. And we'll see if hopefully if they can achieve that. I really hope that this game is successful. I really hope that they become successful and that they can achieve a great multiplayer VR game for the PlayStation VR. And then with this aim controller, this is only going to advance for the PlayStation VR 2. You know, I think we'll see more and more first-person shooter VR games with the aim controller, maybe aim controller 2, a more redesigned aim controller 2 with the PlayStation VR 2. And this also speaks volumes about the, Sony. What Sony's doing on both fronts in terms of exclusive games for their consoles and exclusive games for their VR. You know, this is something that the Microsoft, here's the thing, Microsoft is too far behind people. Let's talk realistically here. I'm not a fanboy, but let's talk realistically. Microsoft is way too far behind in order for them to catch up to Sony, to even be on a plain even field. It's just not going to happen, man. Just realistically, just there's no way in hell that can happen. Okay, and I don't care if you're a Xbox fanboy. This is the truth. They're just too far behind. Just realistically, it's not possible for them to catch up. They don't even have their own VR, man. And even if they do make one next year or a year after, they're too far behind. They're too far behind to catch up to Sony. Just like they're too far behind on the exclusives to catch up to Sony. They're just too goddamn far behind. And I'm sorry if you don't like it, but I have to tell you the truth. You know, maybe you should switch to Sony. Maybe it's time now that you switch to Sony. You know, then you can come back to Xbox whenever they get their shit together. Whenever they start releasing some good exclusives that work. You know, but right now this is the reason. Well, look, this month we have this game coming out. There's always something coming out for Sony. It's exclusive. August 28th next month, we have this game that's exclusive with the aim controller for PlayStation. And then, shortly after that, a week after that, after Labor Day weekend, we have Spider-Man console bundle, Spider-Man coming out, which is going to be successful. And then again, yet again, Phil Spencer is going to go on Twitter. He's going to type in congratulations for great Spider-Man game, success, whatever. You know, like, dude, how many times you're going to be congratulating your competitors? No, that's sad. If I was the CEO, if I was the head of Xbox, and I have to congratulate my competitors every other year, I would have resigned. I would say, I quit. That's what I would do. Means I'm not doing my job by succeeding. And I'm sorry if you Xbox fanboys don't want to hear this, but someone has to tell you. And it's better me telling you this than a Sony fanboy. Okay? So there you have it. I have high hopes for this game. Hopefully it's successful. But then again, the only way I'm going to find out how this game plays is when it comes out August 28th. Okay, I'm going to do a live stream. It's going to be like this, green screen, maybe a little bit bigger screen, a wider screen. And you're going to see the way I'm using my controller, the motion, the whole thing. You know, you will see it. And it should be a lot of fun. But, you know, like I said, I have high hopes. And hopefully the game is successful. But the only way I can find out if it's successful or not, it's on the August 28th, you know. So there you have it. You know, hopefully this gives you some idea on how I feel about this game. Should you be excited? I think you should. And I think we should support this game. You know, because if we support it, then the developers will spend more time fixing it up, patching it up. You know, sometimes they need a little extra hand, dude. You know, this is why people need to support the developers. You know, don't be so harsh on them. Even if the reviews are like so-so, the game can still evolve and become a sleeper hit. But it only becomes that if we support these developers, you know, and if they patch it up, if they listen to us, if they fix it up, and if it's a great experience, multiplayer experience, then that's good. That's good for the same controller. It means more games will be coming out. And that's also good news for the PlayStation VR 2, because then we're going to have a redesigned aim controller 2 that's going to be implemented with the PlayStation VR 2. I think I told you guys, I'm not saying that I'm some kind of a gaming prophet, but if you go through my videos, I exactly said that PlayStation VR 2 will be shown this November on PlayStation Experience. Mark my words. Right around before Thanksgiving, that was November 10th, November 11th or 12th, PlayStation Experience this holiday season, you will see PlayStation VR 2 being presented to you and how it looks and everything. So, you know, so far PlayStation VR 2 looks great. I've seen it. I've seen the concept design. It has a ventilation fan built into it, and to me that's a big deal, because one biggest issues that I had with PlayStation VR was the fact that it gets hot, it gets warm, and then the lenses become foggy. Okay, so that was the one issue. Now with the ventilation and the cooling built inside of it, that will keep the VR headset from not being foggy, and will keep the VR headset running smoothly. So more information of that you guys will see once the VR headset becomes presented to you this November, this holiday on PlayStation Experience. Alright guys, it's been 22 minutes. Hopefully you guys like this video. I always try to bring you something new, and I hope you like it. You know, I cannot force you to like it, but if you did, you did. If you didn't, you didn't. I'm just here to give you my opinions and my thoughts, and that's what it is. This is me, being independent, and letting you know how I feel pretty much about the gaming industry, TVs, and everything else. So before I end this video, people have been asking me what's going on with my TV customization, picture settings, and all this stuff. It's coming. It's just that my schedule right now has been very crazy. But there is some videos coming tomorrow. We'll have some videos tomorrow and stuff like that. Alright guys, thank you for watching.